Hey, I'm Kenny.
And I'm Brandon.
We're going to talk to you today about heat illnesses.
There are 5 stages of heat illnesses. They are heat cramps, heat syncope, heat exhaustion, exertional heat stroke, and exertional hyponatremia. Heat conditions are less effective in very young individuals. There are numerous factors that cause the body to retain heat. They are nutrition, drugs, alcohol, and fitness levels. Also, people with seizure disorders and sickle cell anemia may be predisposed to these conditions.
These conditions can be very detrimental during exercise in hot and humid environments, where large amounts of sweat is produced. Peripheral vasodilation supplies the muscles with the additional oxygen, glucose, and increased surface area to dissipate heat through the skin by convection. If hydration is not restored, further vasoconstriction and a further rise in body temperature results. Heart rate increases as cardiac output decreases, and blood pressure falls, eventually producing
Heat cramps are painful muscle spasms due to excessive water loss and electrolyte imbalance, commonly occurring in the calf or abdominals. This may occur in individuals who overexert themselves. This is associated with fatigue, thirst, and
heat is associated with rapid fatigue and overexposure. Standing in the heat for long periods of time, caused by peripheral vasodilation or pooling of blood into the extremities, resulting in dizziness and fainting. You can treat this by placing the athlete in a cool environment, having them consume fluids, and lay them down. This can be prevented by consuming extra fluids and maintaining electrolyte balance. Treat with fluid ingestion and light stretching with ice massage. Also, vital signs should be monitored to ensure the condition does not progress.
heat exhaustion results in inadequate fluid replacement and exhibits signs of profuse sweating, pale skin, mildly elevated temperature, dizziness, hyperventilation, and rapid pulse. Athletes may develop heat cramps and become faint and dizzy. The core temperature will be around 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Immediate treatment includes fluid ingestion by IV replacement and placed into a cool environment.
The signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion is profuse sweating, rising body temperature, tachycardia, or rapid heartbeat, hyperpenia, hypotension, headache, fatigue, and nausea. Individuals should be fully rehydrated and free of symptoms before returning to activity.
Exertional heat stroke is a serious and life-threatening condition characterized by sudden onset, sudden collapse, loss of consciousness, flush, hot skin, minimal sweating, shallow breathing, strong rapid pulse, and a core temperature greater than 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperature must be lowered within 45 minutes, so drastic measures must be taken to cool the patient, such as stripping the athlete of their clothing, sponge with cool water, ice pack the body on the neck, armpits, and groin area, immersion in cold water, and transportation to the hospital immediately will be needed.
Heat stroke is the third leading cause of sports-related death following head and neck trauma and cardiac failure. The NATA recommends that athletic trainers assess rectal temperature to obtain the most accurate measure of core temperature. However, the athlete would probably like it better if it was orally. The return to play decisions should be made by the treating physician. Once cleared, the individual should begin a gradual return to activity, allowing time to recover.
Exertional hyponatremia is the final type of heat-related illness and has some similar signs and symptoms to that of exertional heat stroke. This is a dangerous condition in which the sodium level in the blood falls below normal. The result of low blood sodium is a flow of water from the vascular system into the tissues. The cells in the tissues swell to the point of bursting, causing a severe alteration in cell function. Fluid in the lungs and brain can quickly cause death.
This type of heat illness produces headaches, nausea, impaired cognition, loss of consciousness, seizures, and swollen extremities. The core body temperature is normally not over 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The person with this should not be given fluids until a physician has properly diagnosed the condition and an appropriate hypertonic saline solution is determined. This should be immediately referred to the hospital, and the return play decision should be determined by the treating physician.
These conditions during exercise that are attributed to environmental heat are preventable. Pre-participation examinations can be used to identify people at risk for heat illnesses, such as history of previous exertional heat illnesses or family history of anemic disorders. Everyone needs to be educated regarding this issue, including coaches, athletes, and family members.
Acclimatization should be allowed for athletes so their cardiovascular system can adapt. Next, avoid vigorous exercise during the hottest part of the day. For this, the drills should be moved inside or scheduled practice for a later time. There also should be modified activities, frequent breaks in the shade, and shorter practice.
The appropriate clothing should be worn as well as monitoring athletes throughout practice. The proper hydrations should be done before practice. This can be done by having athletes weigh in and out for practice and not be allowed to leave the facility if they do not reach their pre-practice weight.
Pre-hydration guidelines recommend the consumption of 17 to 20 ounces of water or sports drinks 2 to 3 hours before practice, along with 7 to 10 ounces right before practice. Also, fluid intake should be done during practice to prevent dehydration. Use this information to be able to identify the signs and symptoms of heat illnesses and know how to take action if you see these symptoms present. We now have a short video for you to watch about heat illnesses.
When you suffer a heat stroke, there's an oppressive heat that is like nothing you've ever felt in your life. There are 3 critical life-saving steps to take if an athlete's suffering a heat stroke. First is to get an accurate core body temperature.
She's 106. Can you grab that side?
Second is to cool the person down, preferably on site. And third is to use cold water immersion to cool them down. If you don't follow these strategies, there's a very good chance the athlete will die. My name is Douglas Casa. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Corey Stringer Institute in the MEAG School of Education at the University of Connecticut. Corey Stringer was an offensive tackle for the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL. In 2001, in the second day of training camp, he suffered a heat stroke. Ultimately, he died from the consequences of that heat stroke. The mission of the Corey Stringer Institute is to prevent sudden death in sport. We do it by 4 primary methods. One is by educating the public and coaches and athletes and parents. Second is by doing research to try to enhance our knowledge base in this particular field. Third is advocacy for policy changes to make better rules to keep athletes safer. And fourth is mass market outreach so we can get this word out to the public at large. A great example of the mission of the Corey Stringer Institute is the work we've done in the state of Arkansas over the last couple years.
The summer of 2010 was one of the hottest on record in Arkansas.
You want to win or you want to coach for the season? Right now you're coaching. You got to run 40 yards! Run 40 yards!
Despite the heat, high school football teams across the state were practicing, gearing up for the season.
Drives up here, guys. Got to be able to focus when we're tired. We got to be able to think when we're tired.
Will James, a 16-year-old, 250-pound lineman for Pulaski Academy, began to falter. It was heat stroke. Will was rushed to the ICU at Arkansas Children's Hospital. At Arkansas Children's that weekend, there were a total of 4 high school boys, all in serious condition with football-related injuries. After 3 weeks in the hospital, Will was released, weak and needing kidney dialysis.
My name is William Johnson. I'm 14 years old, and I live in Jonesboro, Arkansas. 2 years ago, I suffered from exertional heat stroke. My mom warned me about how hot it is. I was worried. I had been listening to the radio because we had an excessive heat warning. I told the coach that I was getting really tired, and he just told me to go on. I started to fall. On our last sprint, I fell once, and I was the last one. He was having respiratory failure, and he had pulmonary edema and enlarged heart, so he was basically having congestive heart failure.
Back now at 8:19 with a warning to parents and students as training gets underway for many high school sports.
The Corey Stringer Institute has assisted the state of Arkansas with trying to make some positive changes. We assisted with getting 3 laws passed and new heat acclimatization policies in vogue for the state of Arkansas, all within the last 2 years.
We got to go to the state capitol of Arkansas and watch Governor Beebe sign into law this bill that requires all the public schools in Arkansas to have a tub to cool players that are on a football field.
With these changes, the state of Arkansas becomes one of 8 states that meet the minimum guidelines for heat acclimatization. And the Corey Stringer Institute is working diligently with many other states so that eventually all of them meet the minimum standards.
Keep fighting. Teamwork gets you through, baby. Togetherness.
The Corey Stringer Institute is extremely proud to work with the NFL, Gatorade, and Timex in its goals of trying to prevent sudden death in sport. In 1985, I suffered a heat stroke and was extremely fortunate to survive because of the exceptional care I received that day. And it's ultimately the goal of the Corey Stringer Institute to make sure that no parent has to live with the tragedy of their child dying when it was preventable.